All right, so I'm actually supposed to be out of the house, but I'm gonna really quickly film a video because I genuinely felt called upon to share my thoughts on this story with you, and that is An Evening with Claire by Gaito Gazdanov. And this is not an author I'd ever heard of before. It's not a novella I'd heard of before. It was gifted to me by my sister, whom I'm running late to meet, but I think she'll forgive me. And essentially, Gazdanov, he published this book in 1930, so he was already, I believe, living in Emigration. He grew up in Siberia and Ukraine, just like the protagonist here, and served in the White Army again, just like the protagonist. So, An Evening with Claire, it is a modernist novel, but that can mean so many things. To me, what that means in the context of this novel is this kind of gloomy, apocalyptic mood that kind of pervades the whole thing. And we have this protagonist. Essentially, the plot is he shows up every evening to spend time with the woman he loves, Claire, while living in Paris. They're both Russians living in emigration following the Russian Civil War. And he finally, one night, she tells him, I'm no longer with my husband. And they sleep together and consummate their love, which has been felt by his protagonist for over a decade. And instead of feeling the sense of release and euphoria that he was expecting, he just feels depressed. And so this evening with Claire is really just a frame narrative for the protagonist to then tell us the story of his life. Claire is obviously featured in it, but it's not about her or their love story as much as it is about him and his upbringing. Now, he reminds me a lot of Tolstoy's Childhood, Boyhood, and Youth, if you've read that, just because similarly, this protagonist belongs to the gentry class, so the upbringing that we're witnessing is really a privileged upbringing. And the language is very lyrical. It's pretty, it's flowery. A lot of the times Gazdanov gets compared to Nabokov for his themes, as well as kind of for the beauty of the language that he uses. And we see this protagonist basically just grow up, little sweet anecdotes about his life, and then he enlists to serve in the White Army. And I wanted to share a passage with you all that really stood out to me, and it's not a spoiler, I promise, but essentially the protagonist has this uncle that is very dear to him, Uncle Vitaly, and Vitaly is this crotchety old man. He's just grumpy, nobody likes him except the protagonist, and the protagonist pays him one final visit before enlisting in the White Army at the age of 16, and he asks his uncle about the meaning of life, and he does it as a joke, but Vitaly has a pretty earnest response, and I wanted to share that with you all. He says, "The meaning of life," Uncle Vitaly repeated mournfully. I heard tears in his voice and could not quite believe my ears. I had always thought that they were unknown to this courageous and indifferent man. I once had a comrade who asked me about the meaning of life, Uncle Vitaly said, before he shot himself. He was a great comrade, a very dear comrade, he said, repeating the word comrade and seeming to find some elusive consolation in the fact that, resounding in the still air of the deserted park, this word sounded now just as it had done all those years ago. He was a student at the time, and I was a Junker. He was always asking me, what is this terrible meaningless of existence for? For this knowledge that if I am to die an old man, repulsive to everyone, that this is somehow a good thing? Where is the sense in that? Why live only to go through that? None of us shall cheat death, you know, Vitaly. There's no salvation, none, cried Uncle Vitaly. He went on, why bother to be an engineer or a lawyer or a writer or an officer? Wherefore this humiliation, this shame, this villainy and cowardice? I told him then that it was possible to exist beyond such questions. Live, eat beefsteaks, make love, grieve over the betrayals of women, and be happy. And may God keep you from the thought of why you're doing any of it. But he wouldn't listen, and he put a bullet through his brain. Now you ask me the meaning of life. I don't know. I just don't know. Go read this book. Read it not for the plot, there is none. It's really just for the vibes, for the prettiness of the language, for the time period if you're interested in it, and for a writer who doesn't seem to get a lot of credit. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say today. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.